ശ്രുതിസ്മൃതിപുരാണാനാം ആലയം കരുണാലയം നമാമി ഭഗവത്പാദശങ്കരം ലോകശങ്കരം. സർവാനഭിവാദയേ. വസ്തുതഃ മോമുദ്യതേ മേ മനഃ യത് അത്ര ഹൈഡൽബർഗ് വിശ്വവിദ്യാലയെ തൃതീയപ്രഭാഷണസ്യ അവസരോ ലബ്ധ ഇതി ധന്യമാത്മാനം മന്യേ. Dear learned friends, Professor Huskan Gupta, Professor Anand Mishra, dear colleagues in the Department of Sanskrit and other Indological subjects, dear doctoral and PG students, I salute you all and welcome you to my lecture. Today I am requested to deliver a lecture on the rasa theory. The rasa theory put forth by Bharata, and in the history of Alankara Shastra, Kavya Shastra, or what we call dramaturgy, rhetorics, in poetics and aesthetics, how far the theory envisaged by Bharata Muni has been treated seriously. What actually happened in the voyage of rasa, in the journey of rasa, what happened to rasa through centuries. And so the topic of my today's lecture will be the journey of rasa, the doctrine of rasa, and of Bharata Muni, and a critique on later commentators of Natya Shastra. In Sanskrit poetics, a place of pedestal has been given to rasa. The concept of rasa, as we know it today, originated with the Natya Shastra of Bharata, that you know already. Bharata is the first Acharya to speak about rasa strictly in terms of Kavya and Nataka. But this concept has undergone a tremendous change since its original formation. It has remained actually a core subject of constant discussion in Sanskrit poetics, and it has shown a really qualitative transformation from the original shape of Natya Rasa to its updated the current doctrine of Kavya Rasa. So the journey is from Natya Rasa to Kavya Rasa. Bharata spoke about the Natya Rasa, but for centuries the commentators of Bharata, mainly based on the doctrines put forth by Bharata, they were discussing not about this Natya Rasa, but they were more concentrated on Kavya Rasa. Even the question of the number of rasas has never witnessed unanimity, and modern additions have been taken into consideration by the later poeticians. Over and above the 8 rasas outlined by Bharata. Sringara Hasya Karuna, Raudra Veera Bhayanakaha, Bebalsalbhuda Sapnyau Chetyashtau Nati Rasa Smrtaha. In Natashastra, in the 6th chapter, the 16th Karika. I am referring that Karika. It is not only the definition of rasa or the number of rasas which have attracted much of the speculations offered by Indian poeticians, but also the purpose and necessity of rasa, as illuminated by Bharata in his masterpiece, have suffered a lot of diversions and digressions. What in the beginning was spelt out to be the purpose of rasa by Bharata is indeed the subject matter of this lecture. But in the later periods of Sanskrit literary criticism, the debate on the purpose of rasa was confined to the question whether or not is the soul of poetry. That was the only question discussed throughout the centuries, whether rasa is the soul of poetry or not. The matters related to the purpose of rasa, the prayojanas of rasa, were never discussed as done by Bharata Muni. Man's first philosophic and other speculation and thoughts are necessitated and brought into a kind of loose, what we call formation by the social and also economic conditions surrounding him, but they are definitely sharpened and polished by the contemporary scholars of what we call contemporary schools of thought. This is precisely true about the development of the concept of rasa also. Originally, Bharata had thought about rasa in the context of natya alone. This should be underlined. But the later poeticians, including Abhinavagupta, who were influenced and guided by their philosophical commitments, converted the simple and straightforward concept of rasa put forth by Bharata into something highly intellectual and metaphysical doctrine. Bharata put the theory of rasa as simple as it is. It was so simple, it was lucid, it was easy to understand, it is with a wider range of its application. But when it came to the later commentators, it became an intellectual exercise, it became a philosophical doctrine, and it became a tough subject to be brooded over. Through centuries of discussions and deliberations, the theory of rasa now acquaints us with the generally known conclusion that rasa is what Brahman is. This is the net result of the detailed deliberation for centuries. So, rasa is Brahman. Just as the yogins and the sages experience the supreme pleasure of the knowledge of Brahman. Similarly, the Sahridayas experience the supreme bliss of rasa through poetry, which remains dialectically indescribable and essentially metaphysical. These two aspects are there. One is dialectically indescribable and essentially metaphysical. On account of this similarity, the realization of the pleasure of rasa is designated as Brahmaswada Sahodara. This is the latest idea about rasa, which was surprisingly first of all displayed by the great Abhinavagupta. He is the man who started this, who started and accelerated the theory of Brahmaswada Sahodara. But it is not simply Abhinavagupta. Abhinavagupta has taken this even prior to him. He himself has referred Bhattanayaka in his the master commentary on Dhunyaloga, that is Lochana. He has mentioned about Bhattanayaka, his theory of rasa. So the Abhinavagupta, about 1,000 years back in 10th century, he referred this. The contents and diction offered by Abhinavagupta while indoctrinating Bharata's concept of rasa was actually repeated throughout these 10 centuries by the later day critics. They were simply doing an adharavyayama, a lip service. They are simply repeating what is already mentioned by Abhinavagupta. In any major book, you cannot accept Vikti Viveka or what we call Vakrokti Jivita. Even Vakrokti Jivita, to some extent, it's hiding. But most of the poeticians and aestheticians, they have, while they discuss rasa, they follow the footpath of Abhinavagupta and they detail this doctrine as a Brahmaswada Sahodara. So, these bygone 10 centuries, what we see in the history of poetics, in the history of our rasa theory, that they were simply repeating what is already told by Abhinavagupta. And even Abhinavagupta has taken up this theory. He got this clue from Bhattanayaka. So, in the words of Abhinavagupta, there is Abhinavagupta mentions, the pleasure derived from rasa is indeed different from the worldly pleasures. It remains unparalleled so far as it crosses the barriers of memory, inference, and physical perception. So this is what Bhattanayaka has told. I quote from that Lochana that he quoted there. Tena alavika chamalkaratma rasaswadaha smriti anumana laugika swa samvedana vilakshana. So this is the quotation. So this is beyond the barriers of memory, inference, that is logic, anumana, and physical perception, pratyaksha. It would not be out of place to assume that Abhinava matured this idea on the basis of the views expressed by his predecessors, for we come across a as I told you earlier, a similar idea expressed by expressed in a text attributed to Bhattanayaka. It is called Hridaya Darpana and quoted by none else than Abhinavagupta himself. Mamada Bhatta in his Kavya Prakasha repeats the essential points of Abhinavagupta's Rasa doctrine by saying that Rasaswada is similar to Brahmaswada. So, while we come when we talk about Bhattanayaka, the quotation follows like this. It is Rasaha Anumana Smrityadi Vilakshanena Rajastamonubandha Vaijitriya Balat Vriddhi Vistara Vikasa Lakshana Sattodrega Prakasha Anandamaya Nija Samvid Vishrandi Lakshanena Parabrahmaswada Savidhena Bhogena Param Bhujyate. So, this is actually what we explained, what we mentioned about how this Rasaswada is apart from Smriti, inference, remembrance, inference, and even physical perception. So, the Kavya Prakashakara, he repeats the essential points of Abhinavagupta's Rasa doctrine by saying that Rasaswada is similar to, he says that it is very similar to Brahmaswada. There he says that what we call his quotation is like this: Panagarasanyayena Puraiva Parispuran Hridayamiva Pravishan Sarvanginamiva Alingan Annal Sarvamiva Tirodadhat Brahmaswadamiva Anubhavayan Alaugiga Chamalkarakari Sringaradiko Rasaha. Brahmaswadamiva Anubhavayan. So that point to be underlined. The last but not the least word on this doctrine to be found in Sahitya Darpana, where Vishwanatha on his where that the what we call has after repeating the Abhinavagupta's Abhinavagupta, what he has already told by Abhinavagupta, emphatically added, he is the first man perhaps to say like this, added that that it is only a blessed few who are able to experience the Laugika pleasure derived from the Rasa. So this is very something astonishing one, the statement, because even Abhinavagupta has not gone to that extent of saying that Rasa can be experienced only by a few who are gifted by meritorious deeds and Janmandara Punya or whatever it may be, they say. This is not the idea of Bharadamuni. Bharata never says in any part, in any part of Natya Shastra, you cannot trace out such a statement of Bharata that Rasa is what we call accessible, or Rasa can be appreciated or realized. The aesthetic rapture of Rasa can be experienced only by few who are fortunate. Such a statement you cannot see anywhere. Instead of that, Bharata says that this is worldly acceptable. Everybody can enjoy Rasa. and it is throughout that I will come to those karigas later. So there you see a gulf of difference between in the approach. The Bharata says that it is accessible and it should be appreciated by one and all, and it should be fruitful, and its prayojana should come to all the people. But here, the Abhinavgupta and his predecessors, his commentators, that is why we make a critic on that. So they follow another line, and they say that they mostly all the people, except some exceptions we can see, like Vakroktikara and some other people, though even Anandavardhana is not of that opinion, I think so. But this is there that the Sahitya Darpanakara has the first man, the first Alangariga to mention that he has emphatically added that it was only a blessed few who are able to experience the alaugika pleasure derived from the rasa. So this is the what we call the emphasis has shifted, and from common man the rasa has gone to a fortunate few. Those who are fortunate, a few, those who are fortunate. The views expressed by Vishwanatha are the ones generally accepted by the Sanskrit poeticians. Even though they have not worded like that, but they also support it. Surprisingly, however, the salient features of rasa doctrine actually brought into light through the views quoted above are quite in contrast with the ones elaborated by what we call Bharata in his Natyashastra. For example, the later poeticians emphasized that the pleasure derived from rasa is alaugika. Starting from Abhinavgupta, or even before even the great scholar whom Abhinavgupta quotes, that is Acharya Bhattanayaka. Starting from there, we see a galaxy of scholars, the acharyas, the poeticians, they all advocate that rasa is alaugika, whereas the kind of pleasure which Bharata has visualized and aimed at is quite laugika. The pleasure deriving from rasa is quite laugika for Bharata. The later doctrine of rasa explained that the rasaswada belonged to the intellectual and rather spiritual arena. But Bharata, on the other hand, the rasa realization, the knowledge of rasa theory, all these things, all the commentators, including Abhinavgupta, all say that is only for a few. Only intellectually gifted people, those who are fortunate to have kavya swada, rasa swada, only such gifted people, fortunate people can realize rasa. That is their theory. But Bharata is not of that opinion. Bharata, on the other hand, had found in rasa a medium which can minimize the physical fatigues and worldly worries of the spectators. In the still later period, it was thought that rasa pleasure can be experienced by a few blessed people, whereas it is the common man who was to be the really beneficiary in the Bharata's concept of Natyashastra. So this is the real beneficiary of rasa is ordinary man, according to Bharata. But this is something very much contradictory what we see in the theories from in the views of our great aestheticians starting from Abhinavgupta. So, this is there is sufficient rationally sorry, there is sufficient rationally to pursue as to why this total transformation took place in the history of rasa. It is quite evident the rasa history completely changed, a drastic change. A kind of topsy-turvy happened. Atharottaram sanjatam. A topsy-turvy. It is quite evident that Bharata discusses rasa in the context of Natya. That is, the stage presentation of the play in its totality and its direct impact on the spectators. By giving this status to rasa, in a way, directly attached rasa with staging of plays, dramas, and made it an instrument of stage presentation. Rasa is an instrument for stage presentation, for abhinaya. Why? It is included in the Natya Sangraha. Natya Sangraha, Bharata explains 13 Natya Sangrahas, 11 or 13. There in the Natya Sangraha, in that Kaliga, the main ingredient is rasa. So rasa is an upaya for abhinaya. It is not an upaya itself. So, on the other hand, the later poeticians, through discussing rasa with the help of dramaturgical terminology, this vibhava, anubhava, vibhajari, all these technical words what are propounded by Bharata, using those dramatical terminology as introduced by Bharata Muni in Natya Shastra, would explain it, the predecessors, the commentators, explain it in the context of poetry alone, including Abhinavgupta. He has not taken any pains to explain it in that way. He has mentioned one or two places. He has mentioned some places, no doubt about it. But he has not given the significance or importance in explaining rasa based on these terminologies, based on Natya Shastra, mainly as an instrument for what we call stage, what we call for enactment. So, and they in the context of poetry alone, they explained the commentators of Natya Shastra, and only exceptionally in the context of staging of plays. Bharata's Natya was purported to be a source of relief and diversion from the day-to-day complexities of life faced by man, which resulted in giving birth to various types of physical tensions, mental weariness, and all-round gloom and dismay. So these are the purposes of Natya according to Bharata. So it is applicable to common man. Natya is easily accessible to common man. Everybody can enjoy Natya. Everybody can enjoy rasa. Not as the Abhinavgupta or Kavya Prakashakara or Sahitya Prakara says. Not like that. Natya was to be a wholesome sangraha of some constituents like theatre, acting, music, songs, rasa, and the like. Obviously, rasa, as Bharata conceived, it was one of the many entities which together created a totality of Natya. It is not rasa or bhava, vritti, pravritti, dhriti, dhruva, whatever rasa bhava hyabhinayaha dharmi vritti pravrittayaha, that Kariga you know very well in Natya Shastra. All these are the ingredients. All these things these are upayas for Natya. To stage a drama, to present an abhinaya on the stage, to achieve that abhinaya, these are the upayas. So, it is conceived, it was one of the many entities, rasa is one of the many entities which together created a totality of Natya, which was meant to remove the worldly displeasures and sorrows. In other words, Bharata has explained rasa, like other terms in the Natya, as an instrument in the staging of the place, though of course rasa happens to be an instrument of great significance. Rasa has a great significance among the 11 or later based on 13, 11 or 13, whatever it may be. In the original Bharata Kariga, it is mentioned as 11 Natya Sangrahas, but later we have seen an interpolated Kariga, whether it belongs to Bharata or not, we don't know, but there it is 13. Whatever it may be. As we have already noted above, Bharata has observed that Natya is meant for the common man. So it would not be out of place to present the opinion of Bharata in his own words. So Bharata says in his own verses that what he says that should be very carefully, we have to discuss that. That is the core idea of my presentation here. How the later commentators of Bharata, starting from Abhinavgupta, has deviated from the main vision of Bharata in presenting rasa. Bharata says that, what are the prayojanas of rasa? He says that, uttamadhama madhyanam naranam karma samshrayam hitopadesha jananam dhridi krida sukhadikrit edadraseshu bhaveshu sarvakarma kriyasu cha sarvopadesha jananam natyam loge bhavishyati dukhartanam shramartanam shokartanam tapasvinam vishrandi jananam kale natyamedad bhavishyati dharmyam yasasyam ayushyam hitam buddhi vivardhanam logopadesha jananam natyamedad bhavishyati. This is from Natya Shastra, first chapter, 113 to 116, 4 Karigas. These Karigas never explained by any of his commentators, including Abhinavgupta, in that spirit. These are the what we call the basic 4 karigas put forth by Bharata, when in the beginning itself, when he has started to explain about Natya and Natya Sangraha, the theatre and the other dramaturgical topics connected with including Rasa, Bhava, etc. Before that, he says that the Rasa is meant for this. What are the prayojanas of Rasa? Who are the adhikaris of this Rasa? He says that the entire world is adhikari. There is no discrimination like intelligent or what we call non-intelligent, brave, non-brave or something like that. No discrimination. All types of people can enjoy Rasa, get the good results of Rasa, appreciating Rasa. So, as we have already noted above, Bharata has observed that Natya is meant for common man. From these quotations you have followed it. It would not be out of place to present the opinion of Bharata in his own words, as I stated you these verses already mentioned, that I am giving the translation of that. The Natya in all its rasas, bhavas and presentations would prove to be a karma samshraya for all the people belong to upper, lower and middle strata of society. It would impart useful knowledge and give patience, playfulness and pleasure to all. The people who are fatigued with mental worries, physical tiredness, and worldly sorrows would in all times find rest and diversion through Natya. This is the literal translation of the 4 karigas. I have the crux of the Natya, which I have quoted here from Natya Shastra. The Natya would give to the people. So, through Natya, and the Natya would give to the people religious, not only those things above mentioned. People will give dharmyam yasasyam ayushyam, the religious advantages, long life, ayushyam, and fame, kirti vivardhanam, and fame, sharpening of intellect, buddhi vivardhanam, and general usefulness. So, Bharata has not left out anything. Bharata covered all the prayojanas. He mentioned everything, one and all. And he told that the real adhikari of Rasa is the common man. Common man is a man, a worldly person. He can enjoy Rasa without any. There is no other intellectual factors which will discriminate him from this, what we call in enjoying Rasa. So, Bharata has expressed this opinion in 4 karigas, as I told you, Natya Shastra, wherein he has thrown, in those karigas, he has thrown ample light on the purpose of the Natya, wherein he has thrown, where he has explained the true nature of Rasa and its true applicability and its real prayojana. In the very beginning, Bharata has made it sufficiently clear that Natya is for what we call Natya is for all people from all walks of life. The Natya will not only give them pleasure and diversion from the worldly, what we call sorrows, but will also graft in their minds useful qualities like patience, etc., which will help the ordinary man in the street, to lead a purposeful and happy life. So, this is the real, literally, when we translate his Karigas without any imagination or further support of other Shastras or philosophical commitments, as the speakers, those who commentators, they spoke at length. We can keep aloof all those things and we can explain the Rasa Sutra in this sense. So, the Natya will not only give them pleasure and diversion from worldly sorrows, but will also graft in them, in their minds, useful qualities like patience, etc., which will help them, the man in the street. It is for ordinary people to lead a purposeful and happy life. Undoubtedly, this is the best specimen in the entire Sanskrit poetics. We find mentioned the purpose of poetry. See, nowhere in the world itself, in India it is not, we cannot find anywhere. Even in world literature, you cannot find such a wider vision, the wider applicability, the wider usefulness of poetry and literature as propounded by Bharata in Natya Shastra. So even this is applicable for poetry, not only for Natya or drama or something like that. That is the purpose of poetry, that is Kavya Prayojana. Yet, such mentions, but even though such very significant statements are very clear and very significant statements are given by Bharata, the later commentators, they ignored all these things, put into darkness, and they never discussed such matters. And they took away, they hijacked the Rasa doctrine to their level of philosophical world, where with their philosophical commitments, they interpreted according to their convenience. Nayayikas, they interpreted according to their interest. Vedantins, they interpreted according to their interest. Sankhya-vadins, they interpreted according to their interest. Mimamsakas in some other way. Like that. We have no poverty as far as systems of philosophies are concerned in India. There are several philosophical systems and there are several philosophers in the course of the history, and we find in the course of history, through ages, we have seen different interpretations of different rhetoricians and poeticians. They hijacked the Rasa theory from Bharata and explained according to him their whims and fancies. So, when coming to the ritual, when we speak about the Kavya Prayojana, yet such mentions almost always here such the ordinary and very easy to understand and very easily accessible theories or visions put forth by Bharata, such statements always go in vain, without any prayojana. It goes in vain, vyartha. And such things will be almost always fail to go beyond the fulfillment of a ritual exercise. Such Bharata's visions, statements are being repeated by some people, but they are only a lip service. It is as a ritual exercise, and nobody has given any serious attention to these statements of Bharata. And we do not meet with any significant effort on the part of any acharya to indulge in serious discussion of the kind elaborated by Bharata in the aforesaid what we call four karigas, what I have already quoted here, the Natya Prayojana. The Natya of Bharata is meant to fulfill this purpose. He does not appear to be a supporter of a Natya for Natya. Natya is for Loka. It is for the world. Natya is for the world. Natya not for the sake of Natya itself. Now, if Natya is to accomplish a particular purpose, then all its constituents, Natya Sangrahas, Rasa, Bhava, Abhinaya, as I told you, constituents are naturally enough to be knit together to the achievement of this very purpose. Whether it is 11 or 13, all the 13 Natya Sangrahas, they should be put together in right proportion. Then only the expected stage effect as far as Abhinaya or enactment is concerned can be generated. So, all these constituents are naturally enough to be knit together to the achievements of this very purpose. It is in this very process that the usefulness of Natya can be envisaged. Abhinava, even though Abhinavagupta, he has discussed some matters regarding Vibhava, Anubhava and Vibhijari Bhava. They are not as suspected by Bharata, discussed on the stage, as the instruments of Natya. There is a great gap between Natya and Rasa in the succeeding commentators. Not only Abhinavagupta, starting from Abhinavagupta, those who followed him in the same line, they also created the gulf widened. They widened the gulf between what we call these two, that is Natya and Rasa. So, it is in this very process that the usefulness of Natya can be envisaged. Abhinaya, Bhava or Rasa. And for that matter, any other constituent of Natya has to contribute to the success of Natya for the fulfillment of this social purpose. Bharata has very clearly mentioned that this fact in one of his karikas referred to above. That is already, I have mentioned that karika earlier. Etadriseshu bhaveshu sarva karma kriyasvadha sarvopadesha jananam natyamedat bhavishyati. This is that karika. Since Rasa is one of the constituent of Natya, it therefore has to be dramatized in such a way as to accomplish the social purpose of Natya. Bharata has enumerated 11 constituents of Natya Vidhana, as I told you. That is, those I will quote Bharata itself. Rasa bhava hyabhinayaha dharmi vritti pravrittayaha siddhi swarastadhadodyam Ganam Rengascha Sangraha Upacharas Vipraha Mandapaschedi Sarvashaha Trayodesha Vidho Hyesha Natya Sangraha Hyadishto Natya Sangraha. So here in the first Kariga, Bharata explains 11 constituents, and in the so-called interpolated Kariga, the second one I recited, there 2 more are added. They are what we call Upacharaha and Mandapaha. So to add it, and it became 13. So this Kariga, the so-called interpolated Kariga, as I mentioned you earlier, is accepted to be, if it is accepted to be genuine, it will be 13. Then the number of the instruments of Natya, the constituents of Natya, is raised to 13. Of all these instruments of Natya, the Rasa has been given a place of prime, no doubt about it. It is a prime position has been given. However, actually it remains unambiguously clear that in the opinion of Bharata, unlike that of later poeticians, Rasa is a means, an instrument of staging of plays, and not an end in itself. Rasa is an upaya for the staging of plays. It is not, these are the Natya Sangraha. These are the constituents or instruments for staging. So Rasa is an upaya, even though it is mukhya, it is prominent one. As I told you, Bharata has given among the constituents of Natya, the first place is given for Rasa. The Kariga starts from Rasa. Rasa Bhava Hyabhinaya, like that. So Rasa has its own pivotal role, main role, but it is included in the instruments, in the upayas. So Rasa has been given a prime point. However, it remains unambiguously clear that in the opinion of Bharata, unlike that of the later poeticians, Rasa is a means, an instrument of staging of plays, and not an end in itself. Rasa is not something final. Rasa is not as a play where to be reached. Rasa is not the final destination. Rasa is not the what we call the upeya. If we try to read afresh the world famous Rasa Sutra of Bharata in the light of what has been said above, we are acquainted with a new perspective of Rasa, which can of course be described as its original perspective. So based on that, if you read once again, you revisit Rasa Sutra, you reread Rasa Sutra, then you can imbibe the original perspective of Bharata. The Rasa Sutra of Bharata runs like this, as you know already very well. Vibhava Anubhava Vibhijari Samyogad Rasa Nishpatti. Critics from Bharata, critics from Bhattalollada onwards have invariably taken up the sutra, the Rasa Sutra, for discussion. We have seen it is a very beautifully, it is summarized it is already explained in Abhinavagupta, by Abhinavagupta. That entire portion has been abridged very perfectly by Kavya Prakashakara, Mammadavatta. The Rasa Sutra mentions an amalgamation of Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhijari Bhava, as a prerequisite of rasa realization. The kind of explanation which Bharata has brought forth on these three important dramaturgical terms. See, as I told you earlier in the beginning, when I have opened my lecture, Bharata used some dramaturgical terms like Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhajari, which I have not come across earlier. And that same, what we call terms, technical terms in dramaturgy used by Bharata has been taken by Abhinavagupta and other people, and they explained the Rasa Sutra in some other way. That is what I want to say. So, all these dramaturgical terms put the thing beyond doubt that the illustrious author of Natya Shastra was treating rasa purely as an instrument of stage. When you go through the detailed, what we call commentaries of Bharata himself, Bharata gave some Vrittirupa Vyakhyana. In the form of Vritti, he has given some explanation to each term, like Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhajari. From this explanation, we can very clearly understand the vision of Bharata as far as rasa is concerned, and the Vyanjakas called Vibhavas, what they are meant for. So, how rasa purely as an instrument of stage, what we call treating rasa as a purely an instrument of the stage. It is included in Natya Sangraha. It is the first one in the Natya Sangraha. It is an instrument of stage, and the interpretations or the commentaries given by Bharata himself on the dramaturgical terms, as I mentioned you earlier, on Vibhava, Anubhava, and Vibhajari, this will make it very clear that Bharata conceived these things, conceived rasa as the best instrument for enacting the play. That is not the final destination of Natya. Natya is to be achieved, and for achieving Natya, there should be so many constituents to be applied, to be put forth. Those instruments or constituents, whatever say the term we use, that is through that the rasa is being realized on the stage. No, the Natya has been realized on the stage. So, Bharata explains here that bhava as one which presents the abhinaya, that is acting of rasa in different ways. Vibhava, Anubhava, Vibhajari Bhava. In all these places you are hearing the word bhava. How this bhava has been explained by Bharata. So, see, I quote here, Nanabhinaya sambaddhan bhavayandi rasaniman yasmat tasmad ami bhavaha. See, very clearly he mentions what is bhava. Nanabhinaya sambaddhan bhavayandi rasaniman yasmat tasmadami bhavaha vitneya natyayoktribhi. So in Vibhava and Anubhava and Vibhajari Bhava, you are coming across the bhava that it is repeated in all these doctrines. These are the main instruments or constituents to help the connoisseur to realize the rasa, to experience the rasa. So, bhavayandi rasan iman. So, similarly, the definitions of vibhava, etc., too conclude that they imply a kind of rasa which is obtained through abhinaya. In other words, rasa in the opinion of Bharata is abhinaya. Rasa is not abhinaya, it is abhinaya. In the opinion of Bharata, rasa is abhinaya, which is to be enacted. That is, it is to be enacted, performed on the stage. It should be performed on the stage. Rasa should be performed on the stage. Its staging ultimately leads to the maturity of natya. When you use rasa effectively, the natya becomes perfect, and natya ultimately give you the pleasure. It would not be out of place to quote Bharata himself. I am giving the translation. Exam vibhava. What is vibhava? Is one of which acquaintances with the abhinaya of speech, physical gestures, and emotions. You see, everything is connected, and Bharata explains everything, all these technical terms, dramaturgical technical terms, in connection with abhinaya. He says that vibhava is one of which acquaints us with the abhinaya of speech, physical gestures, and emotions. And then comes to anubhava. See, it is very, very clear that what is the Sanskrit quotation from Bharata I will quote here. He says that vibhavyante anena vaganga sattvaabhinayah iti vibhavaha. And regarding anubhava, what he says? Anubhava. Now, where is this where from this anubhava? The reply is, anubhava is the Bharata himself asked the question, and he gave the answer. He without any room for any doubt, he says that the reply is, anubhava is one which makes us feel the abhinaya of speech, physical gestures, and emotions. Abhinaya of speech, abhinaya. So he relating this to abhinaya. So what is the quotation there? A quotation is that anubhava iti kasmat. Bharata says that anubhava iti kasmat. He himself asks, uchyate. I reply, anubhavyate anena vaganga sattvakrito abhinayah iti. This is in the 7th chapter, 4th sutra. So, with this, he explains that. So, vibhava and anubhava, when you discuss in detail, you can very easily come across that the word bhava in all these, vibhava, anubhava, and vibhajari, bhavayandi rasaniman, and the literal expression or detailed discussion in the of each karigas or each doctrine, as to say vibhava, anubhava, and vibhajari. There it mentions very clearly that it is an instrument of the stage, an instrument of enactment, and it is connected with abhinaya. And rasa is not the final destination. Rasa is for the perfection of what we call natya. So anubhava, it is already mentioned. Then vibhajarins, when he comes, then he says, vibhajarin, now we shall explain the vibhajarins, that what Bharata says. In the text, he speaks about that. He says that, where from are they? The reply is, vi and abhi are the two prefixes, and chare is a root meaning gati, that is movement. When combined with the abhinaya of speech, physical gestures, and emotions, the vibhajarins, what is the role of vibhajarins? Vibhajarins variously lead us to the rasa during performance during prayoga, that means performance. The Sanskrit quotation is like this. There he says, Vibhijarinaha idanim vyakhyasyaamaha. He says, the true words of Bharata has to be quoted. That is why I quote from the text itself. Atraha vibhijarina yadi kasmad uchyate. Vi abhi edau upasargau. Chara idi gatyarthe dhatuhu. Vividham abhimukhen raseshu charanti idi vibhijarina. Vaganga sattvopeta prayoge rasan nayanditi. So it is very clear. The English translation, true translation I have already given. The above translated quotations of Bharata sufficiently demonstrate their author's approach to the bhavas. So what is bhava? That is very significant, very important in this context. There is no doubt that the later poeticians explained bhavas in a highly philosophic manner. Yet, they did not do the exercise from the point of view of natya or stage. Natya stage becomes a synonym of natya. Consequently, the rasaswada, which was purported to give worldly relief to mortals, was ultimately bracketed with the brahmaswada. This is the sad plight happened. Instead of depicting the entire rasa theory, commenting over in the commentary, the predecessors of Bharata, the successors of Bharata, the commentators of Bharata, those who commented directly or indirectly on Rasa Sutra, and using the same terms used by Bharata, the dramatical terms, without knowing the real, what we call the motive of the theories put forth by Bharata, Rasa Sutra and its doctrines connected with the Rasa Sutra, without knowing its implications, they have given, what we call, diverted from the main arena of the Rasa Sutra, the explanations and its visions and its what we call detailed achievements and something like that, detailed in that. They deviated from that and gone to the extent and making it very tough, making it an intellectual exercise, making it as a what we call a poetic philosophy. It made Brahmaswada is Brahmaswada Sahodara. When you say like that, it becomes a philosophy of poetry. So, the Rasaswada, which was purported to give worldly relief to mortals, that was the intention of Bharata, was ultimately bracketed with Brahmaswada. It became what we pervading only in a small circle, only for some few intellectuals. That can be understood, that can be appreciated, the prayojanas can be derived, only benefited by a few people. This has happened. This is quite against to Bharata's vision, Bharata's concepts, Bharata's theory of rasa. The rasa, which was the resultant achievement of the abhinaya of the three varieties of bhava on the stage, On the stage, three varieties of bhavas are being enacted. Vibhava, Anubhava and Vibhajari. These three things are enacted on the stage. So, with this Bhavayandi Rasan Iman. So, on the stage was itself an instrument of stage performance. While commenting on different rasas in the Natya Shastra, Bharata has always kept high before himself the ideals of Abhinaya. We translate here three quotations from Bharata which show how to treat the sthayins like Rati or Shoga and Vibhajarins like Nirveda and as an inseparable from Abhinaya. How Bharata treats Rati, Shoga, etc., the Sai Bhavas and the Vibhajari Bhavas. The Sai Bhavas and Vibhajari Bhavas are inseparable. Bhavayanti Rasaniman, when you explain those things, those areas, our Acharyas also explained that, but not in this sense. So, in the Abhinaya, to what extent it was inseparable, these two, the Sthayins and Vibhajarins. When he explains Rati, the quotation I will tell you first. The Bharata says about Rati, Tam Ratim Apinayet. You have to enact Rati on the stage like this. How you have to enact Rati, Singara on the stage? Smitavadana, Madhu, Kushala, Kathana, Bhrukshepa, Kadakshadibhi, Anubhavaihi. So, it is very clear the Abhinaya of Rati is to be done through smiling face, sweet crying of birds, sweet talks, enormous movements of the eyebrows and the like. See how beautifully he has the rasa as an instrument of Abhinaya. Here all the Abhinayas are explained, how to do this Abhinaya. To achieve this Abhinaya, how this rasa has to be used. So, how the Natya Sangraha can be used perfectly, that has been the vision of Bharata. And again, on Shoga, when he explains, he says that Tasya Nama Shogasya. Tasya Shogasya Ashrupada Paridevita Vilapitaihi Vaivarnya Swarabheda Moha Maranadibhi Anubhavaihi Prayoktavyaha. It should enact like this. The Shoga is to be enacted by the gestures like shedding of tears, show of agony, shrieks, murmuring voices, moha, and so on. These are two examples I have given. Just each rasa has been explained like this by Bharata. Here I am, as an example, I have given Rati and Shoka, two important sentiments. And again, I was speaking about the close connection of rasa and bhava. That means how bhavayandi rasan iman, and how the word bhava has been derived, very clearly mentioned by Bharata. So, Nirveda he explains, Vibhajari bhava. Nirveda is born from poverty and separation, and its abhinaya is can be performed through long breeds, etc. Bharata has similarly treated the other sthayins like this, what I have explained here. Other sthayins and vibhajarins and all other rasas have been explained in this same way. Such a treatment of the bhavas and rasas is impossible to be visualized sans stage and sans abhinaya. Sans means without. without stage and without abhinaya, without mentioning any stage, without mentioning any kind of abhinaya, you cannot explain based on the vibhava and anubhava and vibhajari bhava, how, in what fashion, in what nature, with what characteristics Bharata has explained vibhava and anubhava and vibhajari bhava, the three key points in deriving rasa, in the rasa realization. These 3 points cannot be explained without a stage and sans stage and sans abhinaya. That means without stage and without abhinaya, you cannot explain these things. Then how the poeticians, starting from Abhinavagupta, they were talking about the Kavya Atma Rasa, the Rasa as the Sravya Kavya. So the journey of Rasa from Drishya, it has started from Drishya. It is really, its abode is Drishya Kavya. Its real abode is Abhinaya. Its real abode is Natya. That has been hijacked from that Natya, and the later rhetoricians, they have commented on this rasa and drawn it to the field of Sravya Kavyas, and including Abhinavagupta and other Dhvanikara, Anandavardhana, and his commentator Abhinavagupta, and even later including Jagannatha Pandita. And even though Jagannatha Pandita is not mainly directly mentioned as rasa as these things, he mentions as Abhinavagupta's theory as the final rasa. He has not put forth. He has given Navya Mata and something like that in Rasa Gangadhara, which has nothing to do with this theory. So when we talk about the journey of rasa, the voyage of rasa from Drishya to Shravya, we find this kind of what we call great deviation from the main route, and explaining rasa in a very light way, taking it in a very light way, without giving any significance to the Bharata's visions, Bharata's ideas, views on rasa, how it is applicable to all the people, even for ordinary people, even those who are very ignorant, ajnanins. Such a thing has been taken, that rasa theory has been taken as Brahmasvada Sahodara, and made it very tough to understand. It made it as a philosophical concept, and made it very tough, and finally it has been casted as a what we call the soul of poetry by all the succeeding commentators. And finally, the precisely what Sahitya Darpanakara Vishwanatha Kaviraja, he has told that Vakyam Rasatmakam Kavyam. He never mentioned about Natya. He says Kavya generally. So that kind of dilution has happened in that. And also, he has very specifically, Vishwanatha Kaviraja, he has mentioned that only a fortunate few can appreciate rasa. This is also quite against the theory of what we call the Rasa Sutra put forth by Bharata Muni. So this rasa bhava rasas or bhavas, it is impossible to be visualized sans stage and sans abhinaya. Without stage and without abhinaya, it is very impossible to visualize, to realize the rasa and bhava. So in Shravya Kavyas, You can have the depictions of rasa, you can the varnanas of rasa, and you will get some sort of enjoyment, no doubt about it. But what is expected, the real rasaswada, the real enjoyment, that type of enjoyment, what you derive from natya, that cannot be expected from a Shravya Kavya, which remains Abhinaya on this account is inevitably an instrument of the staging of the plays. So Rasa becomes an inevitable instrument of the staging of the plays, dramas. It is now time to, actually what I have done today, that I have not deviated much, because due to the positive time, with a limited time of 1 hour, we have to give time for discussion. Some discussions will follow. So for that, we have to give sufficient time, that what the professor and HOD has told. So that is must. Deliberation should be happen. I can be here for half an hour, no doubt about it. At the same time, what I have tried is that I have I have stated here rather in my lecture, the core terminologies, the terms, the theories put forth by Bharata as far as the Rasa doctrine is concerned. Regarding this, especially when I mention about the technical terms of Vibhava, Anubhava and Vibhajari, and how it is very closely associated with the stage and the enactment, all these things I have explained. So from the very horse mouth, that means that from Bharata, I have mentioned all this, I have given the quotations. So now is the time of my what we call to conclude my lecture. It is now to arrive at certain clear drawn out conclusions. Bharata has envisaged Natya as a medium of imparting relief to the masses. He always stands for masses. Bharata has envisaged Natya as a medium of imparting relief to the masses, and who are down with the physical tiredness, especially the mass of the people. They normally, ordinary people, they are really down with the physical tiredness, with their daily hard life, routines of life, hard work in life. They will be having mental worries and a variety of sorrows in the world. That is normally in the normal world life that happens. So Bharata aims and envisages this Natya as a medium of imparting relief to them. The Natya is a wholesome presentation of some 11 or 13 constituents, Natya Sangrahas, which together make for its success. So each item of these constituents is not capable of enacting any play on the stage. If you want to have a theatre performance, Bharata very specifically says that there should be music, there should be instruments, there should be rasa, there should be bhava, all these things put together. These 11 or whatever, 13 or whatever it may be, this should be put together, and this is a combined effort of all these constituents to make the Abhinaya pleasureful. Bharata has cherished the rasa along with all its bhavas as essentially an instrument of Abhinaya. It should be underlined. This is the core idea of my presentation. Bharata has cherished this idea along with all its bhavas and as essential as an instrument of abhinaya. That is, so Bharata cherished the rasa along with all its bhavas, vibhavas, anubhavas, vibhajari bhavas. All these are bhavas. They all put together. They are all the instrument of abhinaya. So, rasa is not the final destination. That what I want to say, to make more explicitly and implicitly, to make it very clear about the Bharata's view on rasa, that Bharata treats rasa as an instrument for the enactment of natya. That is is an effective instrument, rasa with all its bhavas, as an instrument. That is why he included in Natya Sangraha, so instrument of staging of plays. On account of, on no account in itself. Rasa is not in itself the final destination. Rasa is not the final thing. Rasa is not the final destination. Or final destination is natya. He talks about natya. So, the post-Bharata period is distinguished by two peculiar characteristics. I was talking at length on the deviations made by great acharyas and made all their what we call their intellectual exercises on rasa theory or rasa sutra, and made it very dugraha, very tough, very difficult to understand, only for intellectuals, those who can understand various Indian philosophies, such tough subjects. And it became very tough. So the successors of Bharata, the commentators, they have made the rasa theory a tough one. And they made the rasa as the soul of poetry. It became a philosophical theory of poetry. So, as we told already, the poetry displayed in later Sanskrit plays show that natya gradually and increasingly became a handy synonym only of Lokanatya and the classic theatre, or the performances enacted before the Shishtas, the real scholars, based on Natya Dharmi, did not draw much inspiration from the spirit in Bharata's dramaturgy. The real Natya Dharmi, which will bring out the expected result of Natya for the world at large, for the masses of the mass of people, for the world at large, for all ordinary people, so to say, that could not be achieved because it became a handy synonym for Logadharmi. And it becomes the performances enacted before the Shishtas based on Natya Dharmi did not draw much inspiration from the spirit in Bharata's from the spirit of Bharata's dramaturgy. Secondly, the acharyas of Sanskrit poetics gradually and increasingly drifted away from Natya and dramaturgy. So, they, on the other hand, usually analyze the rasa not in the context of what we call Natya, but in isolation. Rasa should be discussed in the context of Natya. It is directly, as Bharata envisaged, rasa is the first constituent of enactment. Rasa is the first constituent, Natya Sangraha, of what we call in abhinaya, of enactment, of natya, so to say. So they, on the other hand, usually analyzed rasa not in the context of natya but in isolation. The widening distance between natya and rasa analysis corroborated by the application of the poetician's philosophical preoccupations while analyzing rasa. Through rasa, down the stage to the arena of poetical metaphysics. Rasa became a poetical metaphysics. It has drawn away, as I have used the word hijack. They hijacked the theory of rasa, which was closely associated. Actually, rasa is the behistara prana of natya. So, rasa is the part and parcel of abhinaya, natya. That has been, that type of naval relation of rasa and abhinaya was preached by Bharata. That rasa has been taken by force from natya, from the theatre, from drishya kavyas, and thrown it to the shravya kavyas, and they made the entire theory based on their philosophical what we call commitments, philosophical preoccupations, so to say, as I used earlier, the philosophical preoccupations they have while analyzing rasa. They threw rasa down to the stage, to the arena of poetical metaphysics. Bharata had not discussed the theory of sadharanikarana. It is very, very particular. Bharata, even though he mentioned all the aspects of rasa, including its stage, including its abhinaya, all those things, he had not left out any point, because that is the entire what gamut of his what do we call his the great masterwork, Natyashastra. He never mentioned anything about sadharanikarana. Attempts have been made to contribute some initial references regarding this theory, regarding sadharanikarana. The first reference we see in Bhattanayaka. Once we forget the present elaborations regarding the sadharanikarana, if you for a moment, if you forget the sadharanikarana theory, what is propounded by Bhattanayaka and later explained by what we call some 2-3 what we call succeeding acharyas like Abhinavagupta and others. If you simply sideline that or forget it for some time, for a moment, what will happen? We can easily assume as to how this theory, that sadharanikarana theory, might have been treated in its early stages. Initially, the theory must have originated from the discussion on the kinds of theatrical atmosphere. You see, when you discuss about theatrical, mamai vede, shatrorei vede, tadasthasya vede, namamai vede, na shatrorei vede, na tadasthasya vede, it is sambandha vishesha swigara, something going on, discussion by Kavya Prakashakara based on Bhattanayaka and Abhinavagupta. So all these explanations, the detailed discussions on sadharanikarana theory, when you go through that, you can find out that all these things are related to theatre only. Even the very theory of sadharanikarana, it never explained in the background of shravya kavya, only on drishya kavya, only on theatre performance, only based on dramas, theatre performances. So, only in theatrical atmosphere, which would contribute to the imparting of the message of Natya to the spectators. So, to impart the message of Natya to the spectators, to the connoisseurs, how this Sadharanikarana has worked. That is also that discussion in detail that is explained only in the context of Natya, not a context of Shravya. So now, based on Sadharanikarana, the later rhetoricians, they what we call they explain the entire theory of rasa, but that is not the case as far as these things are concerned. So ultimately, however, the theory came to be guised into all that metaphysics of rasa doctrine in the journey from Nati rasa to Kavya rasa, Drishya to Shravya. The rasa was elevated from the position of an instrument to the status of an end in itself. From upaya, it became upaya. It would be wrong to assume that the present lecture is in. I am not against the inevitable or unavoidable healthy discussions philosophically happened in all these centuries. We are glad and we know very well in every aspects, every subject we can see based on social, economical, religious, literary, and such, based on several reasons. There may be discussions and new theories will be formed. And sometimes those new theories will open new horizons of what we call thoughts. No doubt about it. So I welcome the great advancements in the rasa discussion happened in these 10th century, so to say, starting from 9th century to what we call 21st century. It would be wrong to assume, I think you as listeners, as the what we call the student, as we all, myself, you also, as students of Sanskrit or students of Indian aesthetics and poetics, you should not have any wrong. You should not assume wrong to assume that the present that lecture which I have made is in search of some sort of rejection of rasa doctrine as it has come, or as it has come out to be throughout the span of centuries. I am not standing against any such developments. There are several places we agree with Abhinav Gupta. We have several places that we appreciate Abhinav Gupta, his mastermind, and his followers, and all other succeeding and the successors of Abhinav Gupta, the great commentators of Bhattalada, Sri Sanguga, Bhattanayaga, and like that, such great commentators. We are happy, and we know that the great chunk of literature on rasa, on different commentaries on rasa, it opened different horizons in the world of thought, no doubt about it. But the developments and transformations of this nature are not only natural, these are natural also, but also inevitable. That is also I point out. These type of developments are inevitable as far as the Kala is concerned. Inevitable in the process of the progress of man's culture and civilization. However, it is a fact, and of course, a sad fact. That is what I want to say. That this elevation of position of rasa has virtually detracted from its original and natural abode. Rasa's natural abode is natya. So natural abode, that is natya and the stage. This type of discussion has detracted rasa from its original abode. Resa is the most effective instrument of stage performance. That is what Bharata envisages. Its utilization to that effect need an objective analysis further. We as Sanskritists, our scholars should brood over the subject, and there should be a discussion, further discussion in its utilization to that effect needs. That means basically what Bharata has put forth. As in the beginning itself, I have quoted 4 karigas. Based on those karigas, there should be detailed discussion that has not happened in the history of poetics. In the world of literature, it has not happened. That should happen. And there should be creative and positive discussion on the subject, and fine and proper prominence should be given to Bharata's views on these aspects, and there should be further theories to be evolved. With these observations, I beg to remain. Thank you for your patient hearing. And once again, I thank the organizers of this lecture series. This is the 3rd lecture I am delivering now, and this is the final one. And I express my gratitude to Professor Huskan Upte, Professor Anand Mishra, and other colleagues in the department, and also the brilliant student community, doctoral students and PG students of this department, and other. There are several, I know it very well that there are several other students from several other departments also are here to who are attending the lecture patiently. I am highly thankful to your patience in attending this for more than 1.5 hours. Thank you once again, and now we can have our discussion. You can suggest improvisations. You can suggest commissions and omissions in my lecture. You can suggest, you can add things if you want. You can correct me if it requires. All this depends upon our deliberation. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.